Good evening, Ajay sir. Sir, Ajay Thakare sir has also joined us.
Welcome, Dr. Ajay. Welcome.
I think now he is connected. Good evening, Ajay sir. I hope we are audible to you. Welcome to the webinar.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Dr.
Good evening, Dr. Ajay. Good evening.
Yeah,
And
it has been very long time.
Welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nice to see everybody again.
Yes, yes. I think this is our last webinar of 2020. Next webinar
Oh, is it?
February New Year.
So it would be 1 year later.
Yeah,
The next
1 year
webinar.
later. We have reduced the frequency and now doing on alternate weeks.
Oh, but
Instead
it
of
has
every
been, I
week.
think, no other institute.
University exams,
Okay.
etc. are going on.
Exams are on.
So we thought
Right.
that now people are active.
Right.
When we did on every week basis, then people were sleeping, and our job was to ignite them, to connect them to the mainstream. Now people are active, bringing everything is coming back to the normal. At least the people are learning how to live with new normals.
Good evening,
Yes.
Vyas sir. Sir Vyas sir has also joined.
Oh, great. Welcome, Mr. Vyas. Right, Professor
Good
Vyas.
evening, sir.
Sir, I think sir is connecting yet.
Oh, yes.
Good evening,
So,
Vyas
sir,
sir.
your exams are on online or offline mode?
In fact, it is in hybrid mode. So, few exams are in online mode, particularly practicals are in pure online mode. Theory papers are partially in offline, partially in online, partially eye protected, proctored exam, etc. etc. Professor Vyas, can you hear us?
Good evening, Professor Thakre.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
Vyas,
How are
good
you,
evening.
Vyas?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening to all.
Oh, great.
How are you?
Nice to see you again, Vyas sir.
Where are you hidden, Professor Thakre? Not seen nowadays.
No. All these days, the same thing. We also had exams. We had university schedules and some meetings.
Yeah, a lot of things are going on in the university
exams.
actually. Admissions,
And now
examinations, and many more things.
Good evening, Subrata sir.
Good evening, Subrata sir.
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, can we start with the webinar? It's already 6.
Oh, yes, please start. Subrata sir has joined. Please start.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharati Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management BVI CAM, in association with Computer Science Chapter of IEEE Delhi Section, Consultants Network Affinity CNA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Life Member Affinity LMA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Inter-Society Relations IRS Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi Section, Industry Relations and Site Standing Committees of IEEE Delhi Section, with the associations of Computer Society of India CSI, SAFA Society, ISTE Delhi Section, and IETE Delhi Center. Welcome you all to this webinar on digital inclusion of underserved communities. Our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi stated, "I dream of a digital India where mobile and e-banking ensures financial inclusion." However, for this dream to be a reality in a big and varied nation like India requires great deal of efforts and skillful planning to empower every citizen in every nook and corner of the country. To better understand the complete issue, This webinar is about the first global standard for digital skills and readiness that was recently endorsed by the IEEE standards boards. Moving beyond IQ and EQ, let us now welcome DQ, the digital quotient, a measure for determining one's digital intelligence. In this webinar today, we will discuss the following competencies like digital citizen identity, usage and screen time, safety and cyberbullying, cybersecurity, emotional intelligence and empathy, communication and digital footprint, literacy and critical thinking, and rights and privacy management. The webinar will further discuss a technical skill building platform that runs on VS Code that's geared towards learning the enterprise commuting skills that drive millions and millions of transactions per second, brought to you by IBM. I would first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, Chairperson, Consultants Network Affinity CNA Group, and former Chairperson, IEEE Delhi Section. I also welcome Sri R.K. Vyas, President, Computer Society of India, and Mr. Ravindra Joshi, Chairman, Site and Secretary, IEEE Delhi Section. I would now request Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay to commence this session with his welcome address.
Thank you, Ritika. It is nice to assemble here again on a typical topic about which Ritika has already talked a lot, digital inclusion of underserved communities. When so much of penetration is there, why a particular section or some of the part of human race should be left behind? Definitely we should not make it privilege for a particular group of people who are getting, not only connected once, several times. In fact, I have paused one meeting we are having today at All India level, actually being broadcasted from Chitkara University near Chandigarh, that All India Student Youth Professional Women in Engineering Life Member Congress of IEEE is going on. So a lot of discussions are there, even Region 10 Director is participants and a lot of other eminent persons are also there. But visa is definitely an important area because those who have the sufficient or proper knowledge on this area, as well as those who have got rather lucky to have such connections, definitely the knowledge should be disseminated among those, because it's a very difficult word that underprivileged would have been easy rather than underserved word actually. So very often there is likely to be a mistake on that thing. Definitely we'll be getting a good idea from the speaker of the day, what our nation is thinking. And in fact, when we consider the participation from outside, everybody will be interested that in their respective countries also how much it is being propagated, the idea, so as to include all the people there, so that the benefit of science and technology reaches to the last man in the society also. With this word, I hand over back to Ritika Vasham.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly said that technology should be available to the last man in the society also. I would now request Sri R.K. Vyas, President, Computer Society of India, to motivate us with his words.
Good evening, Ritika.
Good evening, sir.
It is my pleasure to be here amongst you all once again for this activity or the evening webinar of Bharatiya Vidyapeeth, with whom all the professional society like Computer Society of India, IEEE, IST, and many other societies are being associated in conducting various activities in last 6 months, more than 6 months rather I should say now. And these kind of webinars are really a very good effort by a close group of professionals in the professional society and the institute like Bharati Vidya Peeth to dissipate the knowledge in the latest areas of various technology, and also not only the technology, also to serve the people at various walks of life. When we have talked in previously about the effect of COVID, economic effect of COVID, and many more things in the previously, and today the talk which is really very good, digital inclusion of underserved community. When we talk about the digital inclusion, obviously most of us think the digital inclusion is for the persons who are in bigger cities or something like that. But now that days are gone. As from last couple of years, when we see our government has taken a very good leap towards inclusiveness, growth of all those people around the country and in the backward areas and many other cities around the countries. And not only this, government of India has got various kind of efforts, and they have done various kind of efforts to include them, whether they are farmers, whether they are villagers, whether they are the Manrega workers, or whether they are the daily workers. They have included that the Jandan accounts, then the cards, credit cards for the kisans, ATM cards, debit cards, and many more things for the direct transfer of the subsidies at various levels. All these things, when they are being included in the digital transformation of our country, but the beneficiaries who are there, like the laborers of the Manrega, the villagers, and the Kisan people, they are being benefited by. So they have to be knowledgeable how to utilize these facilities which are being given by our government at various steps. So that is why today's seminar plays a very important role, so that we can highlight various activities. Mrs. Melissa Sakti, Chief Penguin IBM Hygo, who is the speaker of the day, she will highlight on these points. I know she has got a vast experience and she will be talking on many of these points. To give a beginning to these, I have already said what all things government has taken care, and why should these people should also be a part of digital inclusion. That is the main fact. And many other aspects will be taken care by the speaker of the day. And I must thank Professor Huda and I must thank Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, who has already says something about the digital inclusion, and Mr. Ravindra Joshi, chairman of SITE and secretary of IEEE Lilly section also, and my dear friends from IIT, Professor Bhatia, Professor Ajay Thakre, who has given some time to have the knowledge of this basic topic, because later on at the crucial stages we have to take care of these aspects. Today we'll be learning, today we'll be having knowledge of these things by the speaker of the day, and tomorrow we will be having dissipating at our own places of work or own places in the states or the smaller cities or the smaller institutions where these people are always available, and we'll talk to them. Thank you very much, Professor Huda, for giving me this opportunity to talk to the number of speakers who are connected. And as always, our webinars are connecting more than 400 people, and I hope some of them will be those audience or the target audience which we will be talking today for this. Otherwise, our students and faculty members can take this knowledge and share among those target audience at their respective institution, respective place of work, and respective states also. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Professor M.N. Huda, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, to address the participants with his inspiring words.
Good evening to all my friends. Good evening to all the participants from different parts of the country and abroad. At the outset, let me welcome the honorable speakers today. And I have, in fact, two international panelists who are today the resource person, Ms. Melissa and Ms. Phila. I am personally thankful to Ms. Melissa, who has readily agreed to deliver this novel webinar, which exactly is the purpose of the technology, exactly is the purpose of information and communication technology. For arranging this and making this to happen, I'm also thankful to the chairperson of the site, a special interest group on humanitarian technology, and the secretary of IEEE Delhi section, Mr. Ravindra Joshi, for having coordinated with the speaker and see to it that this program is happening in such a successful manner. My dear friends, I also take the opportunity to welcome my friends from different professional societies. Foremost among them, of course, Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay sir, the chairperson of IEEE Consultants Network Affinity Group and the former chairperson of IEEE Delhi section. I have here the National President Computer Society of India, Professor R.K. Vyas, who is also the zonal mentor of the North of Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers. I have many National Governing Council members, Professor Bhatia. I have here Dr. Ajay Thakre, the former chairperson of Institution of Electronics and Telecommunications Technical Program and Publicity Committee. I have so many of my senior friends from different professional societies that if I start taking name, possibly my 20 minutes will go in that. So I take this opportunity to welcome you all, sir. And most importantly, the participants from different parts of the country and abroad. My dear friends, I take you this opportunity to welcome on 29th webinar of this weekly webinar series and the last webinar of the year 2020. Our next webinar is on data science, that is on 9th of January 2021. So when in next webinar we will be meeting, it will be altogether a new year. You may say it even that a gap of 3 weeks, you can say it maybe around a gap of 1 year. So I take this opportunity to welcome you all and wish you all the best to welcome a new year in a best possible manner. My dear friends, with the collaboration of IEEE Delhi section, an Institution of Electronics and Telecom Engineers, Indian Society for Technical Educations, Computer Society of India, an Institution of Information Technology Professionals of Safa Society, and all possible premier professional societies in the country, we launched this weekly evening webinar series on 6th of June 2020 when people were struggling and trying to bargain with COVID-19. By now, people have become active, and the purpose of all these webinars were only to ensure that despite disruptions, learning must continue. Today's webinar is on a very, very important theme. Let me tell you about today's webinar, which has been entitled as Digital Inclusion of Underserved Communities. When I'm talking of digital inclusion of underserved community, I'm reminded of the fact that, in fact, when I'm talking of digital inclusion, I'm talking of digital technologies, which we computer science people either know as a name of information technology or technology per se, or maybe as an information and communication technologies, ICT. My dear friends, it is the latest, around three months ago, when I was reading a survey, I read that around 800 million people alone in India are living in villages. And that we have seen during COVID-19, the kind of the situation. And over 3 billion people are globally living in the villages. How can we think to make a sustainable development? How can we think to have a development? How can we think to have a kind of inclusive development unless we connect these people who are in the villages? Unless we are in a position to connect the unconnected, unless we are in a position to reach to the unreached, unless we are in a position to include the not included in the mainstream, or unless we are in a position to serve to the underserved, we won't be in a position to actually get what the technology is supposed to do. We cannot think of any development, we cannot think of any inclusive development unless we reach to those people who are struggling to get services at their last mile. So today's topic is such a novel topic, and I'm happy to inform you that the speakers are very experienced, speakers are practicing, experts in the domain, and will be in a position to help us, to make us to understand how best the technology in general and digital technologies, particularly information and communication technologies in particular, can reach to the underserved people. And that is what is the topic for today. And that's how I normally say that the slogan of reaching to the unreached, slogan of reaching, slogan of serving to the underserved will be basically यही है जुनून मेरा, यही है शौक मेरा, यही है जुनून मेरा, यही है शौक मेरा, चिराग वहां जला दें जहां है अंधेरा. ये different fact है. This is altogether a different issue. We'll keep on talking about the poor bandwidth. We will keep on talking about the battery life. We'll keep on talking about the electricity. But nonetheless, on account of these impediments or on account of these deficiencies, we cannot stop thinking of penetrating technology to those people who need it most. In fact, the benefit of information and communication technology can be derived in a much better way by the people who are underserved. So that is the topic for today's webinar. I take this opportunity to welcome the honorable speaker for the today's webinar, and I will request all the participants that you may keep on posting your questions in the chat window. At the end of the webinar, we'll take up all those questions, and in between, those who are old participants, they know how to get certificates. If any one of you are new participants for let me repeat it, that at the end of the webinar, we will be sharing a Google document link. Do you have to fill up that Google document link? Whatever data like your name, your organization name, your email ID, your mobile number, you will be filling in the Google document link. From there, our Google API will capture the data, will generate your certificate, will create its PDF, and will attach it and send it to you at your email, which you have given in the feedback form. Do not worry if you have given any other email ID in the during the registration process, because the certificate will be generated based on the data submitted in the feedback form. And after the program is over, we will be here till 8:30 to resolve your queries related to certificates. Please understand, those who are attending at YouTube, still room has got a space. You may join back to WebEx if you want certificate. If you are attending only for the purpose of knowledge, then you are most welcome to attend at YouTube itself. Because to the participants who are attending at YouTube, we won't be in a position to give you certificate there. The certification is only through the WebEx system, because we maintain the attendance recording. So thank you so much. Forthcoming webinar is on 9th of January on data science. If you have not registered so far, please register it. We also publish an international journal which is indexed with the Scopus, and the link of the same shall be shared in the chat window. If it is of your interest, you may refer the papers of the journal. As valued member of these webinars and as valued member at our portal, the papers of the journal can be accessed free of cost from our website using your member ID. However, the papers are priced and can be accessed only under subscription mode. But to all of you, as a matter of privilege, the facility is available. If you use your member ID, you can access the papers free of cost. You keep on attending these webinars. Your attendance, wholehearted participation is a matter of great motivation to all of us, and that motivates us to keep organizing these webinars more frequently. So wish you all the best. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Dr. Ritika, over to you.
Thank you, sir. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker, Ms. Melissa Sassy, Chief Penguin, IBM Hyperprotect Accelerator, USA. As IBM Z's Chief Penguin, Melissa created her own Penguin title and led student and entrepreneur experience worldwide. She is a call for code judge focused on solving the world's challenges via tech innovation. Prior to IBM, Melissa was an energy and internet access impact investor at Microsoft. As founder and CEO of Mentor Nations, Melissa created a youth-led digital skills movement teaching tens of thousands of youth to code in 12 countries. She chairs of IEEE's Digital Intelligence Working Group and founding member of Coalition for Digital Intelligence with WEF, OECD, IEEE, and DQ Institute. She holds several board positions in digital inclusion nonprofits. As a PhD candidate, she researched the digital inclusion of underserved communities. She also serves on a UN roundtable for the high-level panel for digital cooperation and is an avid speaker on digital skills, tech entrepreneurship, community building, youth empowerment, imposter syndrome, and personal branding. I welcome you today to this session, Melissa, and I will now request you to kindly enlighten the House.
Sure. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Are we good?
Yes, Melissa, you are perfectly audible.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me this morning. I woke up especially early for all of you because I am based out of Dallas, Texas. So it is 6:54 in the morning for me. But I will tell you, I have my coffee and I have my penguin cup. So hopefully you can see that it says Chief Penguin.
Yes, thank you so much, Melissa. It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Pila. I'd love to first off make sure that Pila has an opportunity to introduce herself and share a little bit about her, and then we will jump into the presentation. I also have a very exciting announcement for all of you, which I will share in just a minute, and you're going to want to participate and you are going to want to sign up. I put the link in the chat window. I will put it again. But before we talk about why that's so exciting, Pila, give us the honors of sharing how you fit into the world.
Okay, cool. Thank you for having me. My name is Pila Pungula, Z Developer Advocate, which is a facilitate training on IBM Z, Linux, and IBM has invested a lot of money in those skills because well, we have a huge skills. My other role is managing machines here in South Africa for Africa. And these are for clients, business partners, and ISVs that would like to do proof of concept. But the same environment, we allow students to use them because we understand that students do not have access to industry software or applications. So we allow them to use them for free. I'm also a Z ambassador, Jolene, where I'll talk more about the Z Ambassador, IBM Z Ambassador program that we have. This is for people that are in varsity and want to be advocates for IBM. They get great references from IBM, but also job opportunities and a certificate. Thank you.
Thank you, Pila, for joining me. Pila and I work very closely together, and we are probably doing, it kind of feels like an event every single day, maybe even a few per day. Before I jump into my presentation, I would like to share an opportunity with you. Now, the opportunity happens tomorrow, so that means that you do not have much time to sign up. In the chat window, you can find a link to the event. Why does this matter? One, you're going to gain access to digital skills. Two, you have an opportunity to win $1,000. So I don't know about you, but $1,000 is a lot of money to me. So sign up. We'll give more information about how you can win at the event, but make sure you sign up. It happens again tomorrow. You also have the opportunity to gain access to 1 year of mentorship from IBM. The event is all about learning digital skills and then taking those digital skills and sharing them forward in your school, in your classroom, in your community, perhaps even the world. I'm going to lead a talk today that is all about the basic building blocks of what it means to be digitally literate. I am presenting some material that is really my PhD research. I defend this this month sometime, assuming I get everything done. I'm working on finalizing my dissertation right now, so hopefully I will be able to call myself Dr. Sassy soon. Dr. Sassy Chief Penguin. I don't know what you think, but I like the sound of that. My research is around the digital inclusion of underserved and underrepresented communities. I am going to share my screen. I'm going to walk you through this. And this is something that I presented recently at an annual conference with the IEEE. As my esteemed colleagues mentioned, I am the chair of the Digital Intelligence Working Group within IEEE, and we have created the first global standard for what it means to be digitally literate. Let me just start to share my screen. I will walk you through the research, and I am also happy to share this material with you. Give me 1 second, because I accidentally turned my camera off instead of sharing. So. For some reason, oh, there we go, it's working now. Sometimes WebEx is not my friend. Okay. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, Melissa, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. So what we're going to talk about is digital inclusion. To me, is a human right. And for those of you who are in India today or anywhere across the planet, you should know that 48% of the world lacks access to the internet. Those of you in India or wherever you are have been in a situation or know people who don't have access and or have affordable access. But it's not just about having access to the internet. It's about digital skilling as well. So I'm going to skip this. I play a lot of roles. You heard my bio. You heard my my introduction about how I fit in the world. And I think what you should get out of all of these bullet points is you should be an and not an or. And what I mean by that is don't be afraid to be an academic and work in a company. Don't be afraid to be an entrepreneur and have a day job, to be a writer, to be a blogger, to be a speaker, to be a volunteer. Those of you who are here today are obviously big fans of IEEE, as am I. IEEE is a wonderful place for you to get experience, practical experience, to learn, and to network with other people in your field. For me, IEEE is a big reason why I have the job that I have today. I used to work in marketing, and I wanted to transition my career to one of social impact, to one of entrepreneurship, education, and IEEE helped me to do that. So volunteer and volunteer regularly. It is not only rewarding for you, but it's rewarding for others. And I think the more we give forward in our communities, the more impact it has even on our own lives. So keep with it and be active in IEEE. So this is the problem statement of my research. We know that 70% of GDP worldwide comes from the internet, and we know that 48% of the world lacks access to the internet. I don't have the numbers handy for India, but we know it's big. I've worked on projects bringing digital inclusion, building internet connectivity networks in India. Actually, in my last project, the Dalai Lama had internet access because of my project. How is that? Pretty cool, right? Who can say that they provided, internet access to the Dalai Lama? All right, so we know that it is a challenge. My specific research focused on tribal communities in the US, but this same thought process can be applied anywhere. Now, my PhD research is really a phenomenological study that looks at the perceptions and meanings and structures and experiences of people without access to the internet. And I specifically looked at this kind of concept of the haves and have-nots, the empowered versus the disempowered, the included versus the alienated, that really divides us and really kind of creates this framework of social exclusion. I interviewed 14 tribal members in southwestern tribes in the US. So for those of you not familiar, in the US, we have tribal communities that live on sovereign land, and they are extremely disenfranchised. In some communities like Navajo Nation, for example, they lack access to electricity. And yes, this is happening in the US. I think a lot of people think that, the US is very connected, people have access to everything. And when you live in a rural community, especially on tribal land, it's not the case. All right. So the first question I asked, this is my research question, is what's the nature of digital and social exclusion experienced on tribal land? So what is that like? What are the perspectives of Indigenous peoples? I realized that there's minimal scholarly research and that 28% of these tribes live under the poverty line. If you think about how that translates in your corner of the earth, we know that significant populations of people in India live under the poverty line. We know that 35% of US tribes are offline. And did you know that 24% of the US is offline? Interesting, right? Of that 24%, 19% actually live in rural communities. So there is a significant rural-urban divide. Again, you feel that in your communities as well, especially when you go out into, rural locations. I looked at government services. I looked at cultural and educational capital, personal power, and their access to material resources. I also looked at, how socially vulnerable groups are typically offline, and that, there is this cycle of both digital and social inclusion that are directly connected, and there are extreme impacts on tribal communities, not just here, but all around the world. So this can be applied everywhere. Now let's talk about what we mean by digital inclusion. It's really access to the internet and a device. It's digital skills, and we're going to talk about what that means in a second, and combining that together to utilize technology to create inclusion. And I call that meaningful use of the internet. That's not something that I've come up with. It's something that the International Telecommunication Union, or the IT branch of the UN, uses. So it's making meaningful use, meaning driving outcomes like education outcomes, economic outcomes, agricultural outcomes, political or social outcomes, healthcare outcomes. So access to devices is, again, you got a smartphone, you got a tablet, you've got a computer, you've got something physical that you can use to gain access to the internet, to use, again, for meaningful purposes. For the purpose of my study, I also defined what does internet access mean? And that's 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload, so 25/3. That's not necessarily the definition everywhere. This is often determined on a country-by-country basis, but for my purposes, that's what I looked at. Now, this is the meat of what I mean by digital skills. This comes from the DQ Institute, which has recently been endorsed by the IEEE Standards Board. So it's digital citizen identity. We're going to talk about each of these. It's usage and screen time, safety and cyberbullying, security. Interestingly enough, it's also emotional intelligence and empathy, communication and managing your footprint, literacy and critical thinking, which is where computational thinking and coding come into play, and then rights and privacy management. All right, so let's talk about what each of these mean. So digital citizenship is partly entrepreneurship, co-creation, so being able to create stuff. That could be, using Canva and creating a presentation or marketing assets. And it's also citizenship. And think about it as this trajectory or this wheel of competencies. You have all these competencies, the ones we mentioned just now in that circle, and then you're dialing skills up and down as you move along the circle. Basic means you know how to manage yourself in a healthy way, both online and offline with integrity. And then more advanced is where you might be a professor or a speaker or an advocate teaching others, like our Z ambassadors, for example. Usage and screen time. This is, are you online too much? Are you managing yourself in a healthy fashion? But also, are you participating with your community? That could be friends. It could be through Facebook. It could be through WhatsApp. Using technology to communicate and participate in your community. It could be for political action or for social good. The next one is really safety and cyberbullying. How are you managing your behavior? And I just noticed I have behavior management spelled wrong. I got to fix that. It's an evolution. Every time you present something, you recognize something that you have to change. So forgive me for the spelling error. We all have a lot to improve upon and recognize when we need to, change things up and do a better job. This is also managing content. How do you manage when you have a troll or someone who is saying disparaging things to you? Do you respond? Do you report them? How do you manage that? And also, how do you, again, manage your broader community? But it's all about keeping yourself safe online and knowing how to protect yourself and others. The next one is cybersecurity. So how do you manage your passwords? Do you have a password manager? Are you using password 123 as your password? How are you, making sure that you are keeping your data, your sensitive data, secure? In my role at IBM, I run a startup accelerator where I empower early stage startups to build and scale their businesses. I focus on a product that's called IBM Cloud HyperProtect Services. That's all about data protection, privacy, and security. We know that this is a big topic right now. I could spend an hour, many hours talking about, the not only the product, but many of the things that IBM has in terms of, solutions that not only empower young people to think about how do they keep themselves safe online, but how do we empower large organizations and startups and universities to keep their sensitive data secure, because we all want our data to be secure. So we have a lot of very interesting products that align to that. And Pila is going to talk to you a bit about what IBM Z is and why IBM Z matters. We'll also walk you through a platform where you can learn new skills in a hands-on fashion that will enable you to gain access to badges, prizes, tech jobs. And there is quite an interesting demand of these jobs, specifically in India and all across the world. And I think Pila mentioned that there's a skills gap. So that means when you study these things, you have a higher likelihood of making a bigger salary and landing a job. Super important for all of us. That's why that's how we're able to live our lives and feed our families and achieve our dreams. The next one is emotional intelligence. And yes, emotional intelligence and empathy is part of digital skills. It's being able to recognize behaviors in others, having empathy, recognizing their pain points, their frustrations, their joys, regulate your feelings, and recognizing when there are strong feelings of others, knowing how to respond, being able to regulate your feelings, and also empowering others to have good and safe practices online when it comes to managing emotions. The next one is about, communication and your footprint. So what are all those breadcrumbs that you're leaving when you're communicating online? I'm very active in social media, so a lot of people hear what I think, what I feel, what I'm working on, what I'm doing. That's my personal perspective and my personal choice. I understand that not everybody feels comfortable. I'm a big fan of having a personal brand, controlling your narrative, and controlling how others see you and talk about you when you're not in the room. But this is also media literacy. How important is it for us to be able to recognize media misinformation and disinformation? What's real from fake, especially during elections or pandemics, recognizing what treatments are available and what are reputable. And again, thinking about deep fakes, recognizing when someone really didn't say what's in that video. It was spliced together to make it look like they did. Or when somebody else's face is put onto somebody else's body, and recognizing that. It's hard sometimes. It's very hard. All right. This is where, coming into coding, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be an engineer. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to be a data scientist, but we all need to understand the basic building blocks of what computer science is and what coding is. I believe that there is a fundamental disconnect in the way that computer science is taught. I believe if I were taught that computer science was a language and a way to communicate, I would have been more interested in computer science at an early age. Instead, I saw it as math. I saw it as something for boys. I saw it as something that looked scary and hard. And so I didn't learn to code. I didn't approach computer science because I didn't feel like it was for me, and I didn't feel like I was included. And I think that I missed out because of the way that computer science was talked about, the way that it was taught. And when I looked around the room, who I saw gender-wise, we all need to feel like we belong, and we all need to feel like we have a place. And I believe that there are many things that are happening that is creating a change in the narrative around what computer science is. Even just saying computer and science, it sounds hard, right? For those of you who've been coding since a young age, you're thinking, no, it's so exciting. I taught myself and it's easy. All of us learn in different ways. Okay. So next thing is rights and privacy. And by the way, they each have 33% because I just made it even. So disregard that. That was what I had in my Canva presentation, and I never bothered to delete it. So ignore the 33%. Again, we all have lots to learn when we present things and we realize things that we could have done better, or to make it more, I guess, understandable by your audience. So the next one is freedom of speech, the ability to say what you think and say what you feel. We know in many parts of the world during political uprising, certain platforms have been taken down, or the internet has been taken down. What role does the government play in your corner of the earth when it comes to freedom of speech and the ability to say what you think, say what you feel? I'm not saying you need to harm others or say disparaging comments, but the right to be able to speak your mind. IP rights, and then privacy. The ability to keep your data secure if you want to make that choice. We know that we often regularly share data. How many of us know where that data actually goes and who has access to our data? In many cases, we don't. A lot of countries are putting in place data sovereignty, requirements and rules when it comes to financial services data or healthcare data. India is one of those countries. We've seen a lot of regulatory requirements come up, like GDPR in Europe or HIPAA in the US, which is all about protecting sensitive data such as healthcare or our dates of birth or what have you. So digital inclusion, a pressing issue. Tribal communities and rural communities, decades of exclusion and hardship. Affordability is a big thing, and COVID-19 has exacerbated these challenges, but also has created this need for all of us to get online in order to have access to education, to valid healthcare information, and economic opportunity. If you don't have access to the internet, in many places right now, you cannot go to school. You cannot work from home. All right, so in the US, 57% or 57 million acres of land is what makes up tribal land. 5 million people are tribal members in the US, and 1.9 million people live on tribal land, and there are 573 recognized tribes. So it's a pretty sizable population, not compared to India, where you have so many people. This is just a summary of the people I spoke to, and you can see that the poverty line of some of them. So, for example, in Navajo Nation, for example, 34,000 people live in extreme poverty. Those numbers are much higher in India. I recognize that. I spent about 1 to 2 hours with each of them. We talked about their digital skills. We talked about education. We talked about economic opportunity, healthcare, and the role that technology plays or doesn't play when it comes to cultural heritage, what they would do with internet if they had access. Wow, COVID-19, I couldn't go and travel. I had to do this over the phone. One of my biggest challenges for my research. And I realized that they all felt they didn't have digital skills. They all felt that they did not have affordable access. And they all felt left behind. They all felt it was impacting their children. They all felt it was impacting their access to education. And they all know people now who are not in school. They all felt they could not get their jobs done. Some of them could not work at all. And they've all felt as if they needed to pivot to do new things. And they felt as if their economic prosperity has suffered. Most of them have never tried telemedicine. They feel that that their access to healthcare information or lack thereof has impacted their health. And again, they feel left behind when it comes to healthcare. However, and this is something very interesting, these communities do not feel that technology plays a role in the preservation of cultural heritage. What I mean by that is they're comfortable having recipes for food, language skills, because many of these communities have their own tribal language. They felt like that played a role, but songs, dances, and medicines, and these are sacred songs, dances, and medicines that have been passed down orally, generation after generation, play no role in being online. No photography, no videography. It's a cultural taboo for them. Interesting, right? So what would they do if they had access to the internet? We all enjoy watching movies and shows. That's not the biggest insight from them, but it's healthcare. It's informal education as well as formal. Access to e-government services and telecommuting. These are just some of the highlights. This is my Twitter handle. I'm at Mentor Africa with a K. You can find me there. You can also feel free to send me a LinkedIn request. I will add a link to that in the chat window. So what I'm going to talk about now is, let me just stop sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. So again, my Twitter handle, Mentor Africa with a K. You can always find me there if you need to ask a question or you would like some advice. Now, I know many of you did not see the link for the Ideathon. Register now. You can win $1,000. It's happening tomorrow. You can gain access to mentorship for 1 year from IBM. It's a half-day event, and it's happening tomorrow. You will get a certificate of participation. We are working with UNESCO. So you will get a certificate from IBM and UNESCO. Really exciting, right? And who doesn't want to win $1,000? So I'm going to put the link in the chat window. Please register. It is a really exciting event. You're going to learn technical skills. You're going to learn how to craft your own personal brand. We're going to talk about tech for good. It is all youth-led and youth-run. Young people are leading each of the sessions. Experts are coming in to answer questions, but it's all youth-led and youth-run. Super important. You're going to be empowered to share your skills forward. We're going to give you a digital skill book in a box. And what I mean by that is you will be empowered to go out and share your skills forward in your community. I also have a template, a social media template, where you can drop your picture into a social media asset that you can share in social media to say that you're participating in the Ideathon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that you have the link so that you can register. All right. I just added it there. All right. So there you go. For those of you who have registered, I want to see you chat with me and tell me whether you've registered or not. So, all right, good. While you all are registering, I'd like to pass it over to Pila, and we are going to introduce you to a platform that will help you gain access to digital skills, win more prizes, get badges, and also help you land a job. All right, awesome. Abdul has registered, and I see Bhavya has registered. All right, awesome. Let's make it big. I want to see all of India. I want to see all of wherever you are in the world registering and breaking my platform. Okay, Pila, over to you.
Thank you, Melissa. Can I please get ability to share my?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Just a minute, Pila. Yes, your screen is now visible.
Okay. Melissa about the Ideathon, which is quite amazing, right? But I want to tell you about enterprise computing, what it is, and the jobs that you could land yourself for just doing the competition that we're talking about. So what is it, right? In a second, a lot of things can happen online. I'm sure you've seen when you're Googling something on the Google engine, you'll find a lot of such, right? And it just shows you how many pages are there that you could get, right? Just in a second, and it even tells you how many seconds are there. Your Tinder, your Instagram, I'm sure most of you are on Facebook. On Facebook, you'll have a lot that happens in a second. Hence, you won't be able to go through all of them. But in an IBM Z, what happens in a second is totally different from you searching. It's totally different from, those posts, because you posting stuff, different people are doing that, but it doesn't require processing of that. So an IBMZ processes all these transactions as they happen in a second. So they process thousands and thousands of transactions per second. These transactions, this is when you're using your ATM. So let's just find out from the audience. I'm sure before this presentation you thought you never used an IBMZ before, and you don't even know if ever in your life you've seen it or heard of it, right? But guess what? Every one of us either has made a payment a credit card or ATM, and that's an IBMZ working in the background. So an IBMZ processes all these transactions in the background of many of our transactions. Second. Cool. So even when I know right now we can't buy, flights, booking flights and stuff, but all those transactions need to be processed. So in any account, any person's account, you'll find that, they might be sharing it with their loved ones. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Is it just me? So you find one account that you have, you're sharing it with someone else, and in that time you want that transactions to be processed as they happen, because you don't want to go and buy something and maybe there's no money left and the system didn't notify you. So an IBMZ has to always be available, which means there's no downtime. There's always going to be working and processing all these transactions as they happen. Right. And what kind of industries are working on in IBMZ? Your bank. 90% of the bank throughout the world are using an IBMZ in the background. Your insurance companies, airlines are using an IBMZ to process all these transactions as they happen. They need to be, make sure that it's processing correctly and as they happen. And a lot of you, I know you were talking about, what you want to do. The next session will be data science. So all these new trending technologies that you can think of actually run on IBMZ. Looking at blockchain, those ledgers that are being looked at and distributed ledgers, they need to be, have a good security in there embedded, so you can verify the ledgers will actually happen and the people that said these ledgers actually happened were verified, right? Who they are and everything. The encryption that is in IBMZ, it allows you to run a blockchain application. Your analytics, I'm sure you've seen on Facebook, when you watch something, they start advertising material that is according to what you like as an individual. And a lot of companies out there are doing that. Rather than sending, thousands and thousands of either letters or, emails to everyone, they're now advertising according to your likes as an individual. Like right now, I just started a new account on Twitter, and I've never been on Twitter before, but they started showing me people that I've worked with, and that and I was thinking, how do they know that I'm close to these people or I've worked with these people? And that's because they've analyzed me as an individual, and they see my email at obviously connecting them to everyone that I've worked with using my email. So all these applications or technologies can run on an IBMZ. And just think about the fact that you have the data science skills or blockchain skills, and now you're running on such a critical environment on an IBMZ that the skills are needed throughout the world, and not just in one country, everywhere. Skills. So if you have both of that, that means your skills will always be needed everywhere. And a lot of people will ask, right? So they're always doing these surveys, and this one is quite important for people who are looking for people that they employ. And so what they did is they asked students, and they said, what do you look for when you're wanting employment? And the first thing they said is, I want a high-paying job. And guess what? Enterprise computing jobs are the most paying compared to your mixed role, IT roles. Sorry, I think there's just some bad feedback from. just mute.
Yeah, I think it's Ravenda, if I'm not mistaken. Can you mute your? I think that's who it's coming from, or it might be you, Rick. I can hear it as well. So maybe we can all mute our phones. All right, go ahead, Pila.
Okay, thank you. So with just that as a motivation, I know, we always, some people, it obviously depends on who you are and what you like, but, your passion and getting paid more, that's a big motivation on its own. And also, after getting paid so much money, you want to use it with your friends and family or your loved ones. So there is work-life balance, regardless of the fact that you're working on such a critical machine that's such critical workload. You'll always have that time for yourself to take a break. And I know everyone, as an individual, we always want to add value or feel valued in what we're doing. And to know that you are working with such a system that gives, it makes, if it doesn't work or if something stops, then, a lot of transactions will not be processed. Things will stop for people, especially financially, right? So you want to know that you're adding value, and with an IBMZ skill, you'll always be adding value because your role or your skills will always are very critical and always be needed. And I think I've been saying this point where I'm saying, throughout the world, when it comes to IBM skills, we have a huge skill shortage, and hence we have different programs to introduce people to these skills. And knowing as an individual, I think even in this economy, knowing that you always have a job or your skills will always be needed, that is very comforting, right? So IBMZ and enterprise computing role, your skills will always be needed. Where do we start those enterprise computing skills? Master mainframe. So by you doing master mainframe, so today we'll do level 1. By you completing level 1, you get to feed 4 kids. So IBM will send money to the UN fund, and 4 kids will be fed on your behalf. But also, if you want to, do now you feel also with level 1, there's no need for you to have either any technical skills background or any coding experience. But then level 2, you're now doing Python, different technologies out there, and also you get a certificate that everyone who works on mainframe will recognize that you have these skills and offer you a job. With level 3, we take 2 people from each region and they go to the US. I know right now, traveling doesn't look as good, but you will go to the US, all expenses paid, and they will train you or go to these events, and then you meet potential employees and great networking for you, and also receive a certificate and the limited edition t-shirts that you could get. So let's start with our hands-on, and I just want to find out, everyone is not shy to share their screen. What I would like to do is just, a level 1 introduction of registration. We're all registered together, and then the hands-on, I'll need someone who's going to be very slow, and so everyone can follow. It's not complicated to do it, and I will direct you. But the problem is I need someone's screen because they have not done it before. But also I'm giving you the chance to do it with me, so you won't have to do it later on. And if you have any issues, we can work through them together. So can I get a volunteer?
So I'm wondering, maybe maybe one of our professors has their computer screens with them and would like to share their screen and walk through. Who wants to volunteer and be our guide to share the screen? Dr. Ritika or Ravenda, or who wants to volunteer with us?
Screen for what?
Melissa, I would have to volunteer in that case because none of the participants have the rights to actually share their screen.
Okay, so which of you would like to volunteer for us? All you need to do is have your computer screen and we will tell you what to do.
Okay. So So while we're still waiting for someone to volunteer, I've shared a few links on the chat. The first one is Z Talent. This is when you've done master mainframe and now you're looking for more material on mainframe and you want to understand it better. And the second one is a blog. This tells you where to go for any certificates in mainframe and you want to expand on that still. Not able to see the messages. Oh, panelists. Oh, I didn't. I said it to everyone. If you can share them again. Is it was everyone not able to see the messages? Okay, I've reshared it again. And so the blog is where you can get certificates, and in the other one where it's an academic at home, your data science, security, you name it, AI, quantum computing. We have different courses there for free for you to go and do, and then at the end you write a quiz and get a certificate on there. And then we have Angel Hack, right? So remember I was talking about those guys that would like to be part of IBM Z Ambassador program, which will give you great networking and maybe career opportunities. So you can sign up there for you to get notifications. So I'm still waiting. Maybe we can have someone who'd like to share their screen, please.
So do you want me to do it, Pila, or?
Yes. Okay. I think Dr. Litaka was offering. Am I wrong?
Oh, okay.
Well, in that case, we shall be taking the presenter rights from you.
Yes.
Would that be fine?
Yes.
Uttam sir, can we change the presenter?
Ma'am, the presenter will be?
Presenter will be Ritika, I think. Dr. Uttam, presenter will become Dr. Ritika. Right, Phila?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, sir. I have changed the rights. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So you would Melissa shared. Let me just reshare it again. And hopefully you haven't registered. If you have, that's fine. You just logged in. Any questions about what I spoke about computing, something you would like to understand or maybe explain better while we wait for Dr. Atika to share her screen? Are you able to share a screen?
Pila ma'am, you are not able to share the screen because Ritika ma'am has sharing rights.
Yeah, I was asking if she able to share a screen. She just needs to go to the link and then she can start it from there. So her
Dr. Uttam, can I request you to please facilitate in sharing the screen of Dr. Ritika? Please.
Sir, I'm just going to talk to her regarding the same.
Yeah.
Please, sir.
If you saw on my presentation,
Phila, I would be sharing my screen. What would you like me to share? You want me to share my complete screen?
Yeah, so let me just reshare the link. So you're just sharing your browser. That's it. But
Okay.
you've then we'll register there.
I think this is. I hope my screen is visible now.
It's saying you're starting to share. I think it's coming. Yes. That's it. To get started.
Okay. I would be entering my account information.
Yes.
Fine. So here goes my email ID. I think I'll have to change my password because there are rules.
Yes.
And I can click on next.
Yes. So it should send you an email.
Well, at the moment, verify email.
So they'll send you an email. Okay. I think that we just need to complete something there. Asking you about the university and your age. That you're over 30, not your actual age. So are you a student? And are you over 13? Then you click yes.
And I click on next.
Yes. Now they'll send a verification email.
Okay, fine. Now I think.
Then you go to your emails. I think it's there. Yeah. You just copy this. You're showing us your skills of memory, eh? You can memorize all those numbers in such a short time. We would just copy and paste.
So I think now my account has been created.
Yeah, so now you log in and it will show you, the challenges that you might have.
Fine. So it takes me now to
Master
the
mainframe.
welcome screen.
Yes. I can't see the button.
Continue.
Yes.
Fine. So can I continue at the moment?
Yes, you can just click on continue. So what it will show is 2 challenges. Let's scroll down.
So what do? We go to the challenges on this page.
Yeah, just I think you should scroll down a bit.
Okay.
It should have the challenges already. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is watch videos on IBMZ. That's when it was launched. So you can do that, any other time. But we will click on register for master the mainframe learning system. So here they'll just ask us a few things. So you can start none. Oh, okay.
Okay, we can even select none in this case.
Yeah. And then the link of the university, college. And then you can click MTM workshop.
Okay.
And then scroll down. You can hear from those, but the most important one is the academic terms and conditions. And continue. So you'll see the first few challenges for now. We're just doing the admin stuff, just making sure that they have all our details. This is for when you get to win the prizes. So for level 2, you can get to win $500 in a competition, and a lot more. As Melissa mentioned, for tomorrow we are giving away $1,000. Scroll down for me, please, and then click on complete the registration. So the first few are also giving you a tour. If you watch the video, it's just showing you how to go about using this environment. You have to refresh every time.
Thank you, Phila. That was wonderful. So can I stop sharing now?
Do we still have time?
Maybe 5 minutes more because we are already ahead of time.
Okay. Can I, let me just see what I can do in 5 minutes. Okay, we'll finish level 1, but that's fine.
So I stop sharing now, and would you like the rights back?
Please, you can stop sharing, and then I will try and share that.
Sure. Uttam sir, I think Phila can again be made the presenter.
Done, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, just give me a moment while I log in. Okay, let me share my screen.
Yes, Phila, we can see your screen now.
Okay, so while it's still loading in the background, what happens is to challenge 1.2, that's where the fun begins. And so they'll ask you to install Node.js and VS Code, and then they'll allow you to download this PDF document. That's where you get to, get these instructions. And they say 60 minutes, but it doesn't take you that long. It's just for, those people that are starting out. And once you've installed Node.js and VS, then you start doing the actual hands-on. which then they ask you to install Zoe on it. And you see it's right now. So then you go to your extensions, you write Zoe, and then you click on install, and then the IBM Z open editor, you install that. So once you've installed the two extensions, you'll see you'll have another tab called Zoe where you can go to it, and then that's where you'll create your own profile. And so this is what they're asking you to do, right, in this stage. So for you to complete level 1. So when you're creating your profile, I know this is a bit fast. So if you'd like to see this and many more other, hands-on, please join us tomorrow so you could win $1,000 US. Then you click on create new connection. Then they ask you for a connection name. They ask you for you to write it as MTM 2020 because I've created it so many times. I write MT, and then they ask you for a profile type. You choose ZOS because now what Zoe is an open source application that allows you to run your Zoe or call your IBM Z. So you're calling your IBM Z in the background and working on it, right? And so here you're calling ZOS, and ZOS is an operating system on an IBM Z. And I know all these jargons are right now are not making sense, but if you go through the challenges, the different challenges, they explain, they have videos that explain better, right? And then they ask you for an IP address. You get your IP address in this document that you will download from your challenges that you see that she was showing you now, right? Then they ask you for a username. Everyone's username is different. Let me just try and find mine. I know I don't have enough time, but I just also want to, while I'm still looking for my password and username, I just want to show you where to go in the actual browser. So it is taking a while. Just bear with me. Okay, so you'll see you have certain challenges, and that's because I have admin view. But if you go to level 1, you will see that we have the challenges there listed for us. This is where you'll get the PDF document on 1.2. So you find your password and username there. As you can see, that's where I can and just take a picture of it and then or write it down. So if you have your password and it has stars, you can click here and reset it. And where you grab or get the instructions that I have is over here. It says grab the challenges instructions. You click there and it will open the PDF document and you can download it, right? So because I've moved from there to here, it doesn't allow me to move from screen to screen and write the password. So I have to redo it, which is fine. It gives you enough time to see. So the profile type is M0S. And in the IP, I got it from the PDF document that they provided. So everyone's IP address is the same. And then they ask you for a password, username and password. Your username, please make sure that it's just the first letter. And the first thing is the letter and then everything else is numbers. So make sure that you don't put O instead of 0, right? And then they ask me for a password. So this is straightforward. It's level 1 is not as complicated. It's you understanding where to go, and obviously you've never used this environment before. If you've never, so you need to understand it a bit better. Once you've created, you just need to click on it, and you see a green tick. That means it's actually successful and it's created correctly. And then you are asked to add it into the Unix system, and then also into the jobs. So the jobs is when you're supposed to submit it from there, and then it will show on the job section. And you'll see from our document, we would have completed all the steps in just a few minutes, right? So they asked us to put the connection name. And they even tell you here how to go about doing it. And then at the end, add it, right? I know I've rushed this, but every time you complete it, after that, you've actually completed level 1. And then you can go to level 2 where you can get a certificate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pila, for walking us through that. I know that we've got a lot of individuals who are hopefully excited about the ideathon. So please make sure you register. I'm going to put the link in the chat window one more time, and we can turn it back over to you all. I hope that today's session was interesting. I hope it was insightful, and I hope that this will empower you with more opportunities to think about your future and your career.
Thank you, Melissa and Phila. It was a wonderful as well as informative session. I am sure you have motivated many of our participants to participate in your event and have even guided them about the intricacies of digital inclusion. There are a few questions from our participants that I can see. So if you would agree, I could ask you those questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There were a lot of things in there, so I might have missed some of the questions while we were presenting.
The first question that we have is, as digital inclusion is increasing, digital fraud is also increasing, especially in rural areas where these things are new. So do we have some solutions to stop this?
I think that, the first thing is making sure that, people have access to digital skills training as they're getting online. And unfortunately, I don't think that a lot of people who are just getting online, know where to go and know what to do. And I think as technologists, it's partly our duty to share our skills with others. And that is part of the purpose of the Ideathon, is us empowering youth with skills so that they can go back and share with their community. I think also for those of us who are in academia, it's figuring out, what can we share with our mom, with our dad? What can we share with our auntie? What can we share with, people who just live in our neighborhood? And I think that, volunteering as a young person to do these things and to run, many digital skills camps, just with people, and it doesn't even have to be anything formal. It can be, 10 minutes of, here are the things that you need to do to be safe online, and being leaders in our community, because we know that there are also many people around the world who can't read. So if they can't read, how are they also, protecting themselves online, and how are they learning the skills that they need to do the things that they need to do? So big, wicked challenges for us to solve. And I know at IBM, for example, we have a toolkit that is called Let's Talk Safe Tech. Let me see if I can grab a link to it. And this is a really great resource for any of you who might want to go out and share your skills with others. It's targeted toward young girls, but in reality, all of the topics that are in there, it's relevant for anyone. This particular program is just targeted that way, but the learnings are exactly the same. I'm just going to Google it real quick, and then I can put the link in the chat window. Oh, I just found it. Here we go. And it has an activity kit in there for people to share their skills forward. So share your skills forward, share them often. Remember that if we've got skills, we should also hold some responsibility in sharing our skills forward. We can't necessarily rely on the mobile operators to do that, or the big tech companies. We all play a role in our community. Are there other questions?
Well, we have one more question, which will be the last one. If digital inclusion is a human right, what do we do for a handful digitally challenged population so that they do acquire digital inclusion?
Yeah, I think my response would be the same as the last one, and that's share your skills forward, be an advocate. If you have certain skills, even if it's something that you think is minor, like, for example, when my mom was first getting online, I had to show her how to FaceTime, or how to, she wanted a Facebook page and how to respond to messages. And, for those of us who are digital natives, that's easy for us. We, just figured it out. But think about people who might not have some of even the basic skills. What can you do during a family holiday to share some of your skills forward with your community? How can you set up a meetup group where you can take some of these principles and share them with others?
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Phila, for this wonderful session. I hope you have motivated a number of participants of ours. I would now request Professor M.N. Huda, sir, to kindly present a certificate to you and Phila as a token of
Yay! Thank you.
So, sir?
Thank you.
So Melissa, it was a wonderful talk. And in fact, practically, you have given so much of insight that I'm sure many of the participants who attended might have been motivated.
That's good. Thank you, Dr. Huda. I appreciate that.
It is our privilege.
Thank
This
you.
certificate is only to remind you, both of you, that both of you have been part of so lovely webinar today morning at America, and of course evening in India. That is the beauty of the digital technology. That at one part of the world it is a morning, and part of the world it is evening. Thank you so much.
We can
Thank you,
skydive into many parts around the world in
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us. We are always happy to come back. Please, make sure that, all of you register for the Ideathon. We'd love to see you there. And we are always happy to come in and do talks and collaborate. Let's do more together.
Sure. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
More meaningful collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa and Phila. I would now request Mr. Ravindra Joshi, Chairman Site and Secretary IEEE Delhi Section, to kindly propose his vote of thanks.
So thank you, Dr. Ritika. My heartfelt thanks to Melissa for agreeing to deliver this excellent session today. And it was really so, enlightening to all of us to know that more than 40% of the humanity still is digitally not connected. And if they are connected, means this is the fastest way of, bringing them into the mainstream society, which is also the aim of IEEE, advancing technology for the humanity. So thank you, Melissa, a lot. And it will be an eye-opener for all of us. And another event is coming up from IBM side, which Melissa and Phila have already sounded us. So I request all of those present to be trying to be part of tomorrow's event. And my special thanks to Mr. Ajay Thakre to be present in this today's session. And my thanks to Professor Mukhopadhyay for being a motivating person for all these events and his motivating opening talks. Professor Huda, you see, nobody can this thing because he has been organizing the events like in such a professional fashion and so smoothly. So thank you very much, Professor Huda, to take my call of, calling Melissa and organizing it so professionally. Thank you, Dr. Ritika, for the excellent coordination and the comparing which you did and the welcoming and closing of the event. And my thanks also go to Phila for, be a value add in this event. And my thanks go to the participants from across India and across the world who spent their evening, away from their busyness and attended. There were some 220 names I could see in the total participants. So my heartfelt thanks to them to have attended the session. And my thanks are also going to our site volunteers. Can I share a screen? Dr. Uttam, can you allow me to share a screen?
Oh, yes, you can share. Mr. Uttam, please make him a presenter. And Mr. Joshi, in addition to these 223 participants who attended on WebEx, there were many participants on YouTube.
Excellent.
We don't have the record directly.
Okay.
Sir, you may now share your screen.
Okay, I'm just sharing.
We also give thanks to the participants who attended it on YouTube only for knowledge. and information dissemination.
Can you see my screen?
No, you have to click share. The third button from the left, and of course the third button from the right.
Okay, I think now it will be better.
Yeah, now it is coming.
It's showing now?
Yeah,
So
it is.
these are,
Yeah, it has come.
Yes,
It has
sir.
come. You're all
Okay.
volunteers, huh?
Yeah, these are the volunteers who have been mobilizing the people to join the events, and they
Great.
also have been organizing. So I wanted to just recognize them by just showing their. This is the least we can do. So
Oh,
it's
yes.
Monalika, Avya, Some, and Ritvik. So
A very
thank you
big
all
applause
for being
all of them.
such a wonderful support. And though Professor Hoda is the leader, but yes, we need a team to make any event a success. So I am stopping to share. And my thanks are also going to Mr. Bhatia, sir, and Subra, sir, to have joined the event. So my thanks again to Melissa and Professor Hoda and his team. So thank you all. We look forward to organizing more such events in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. A big thank you to all our distinguished panelists and participants who have continuously supported us through our webinar series of 2020. To all of you who have joined us on this auspicious day. We will not just be closing this webinar or this year. It is just a brief halt that we are taking before we begin with our sessions for the new year 2021. Meanwhile, today's session, I big thank you to our speakers, Melissa and Phila, for being there with us and guiding us through the entire session and through the entire offerings of IBM. So thank you, Melissa and Phila. That was wonderful. This meeting room is now converted to a call center. Any participants who have submitted their feedback form and have not received their certificate as yet, kindly share your